Good to see you. We had an outstanding weekend of boxing. We're going to discuss it now. Thank you for joining me, Christian Shreve, bestboxingbets.com. I'm also the author of Money Boxing. So let's go over what happened last night. We had an official pick. We had a loss. Third loss of the year. So people are trying to rationalize or explain because a lot of people got this one wrong. Devin Alexander and Sean Porter for the one of the welterweight baubles. How do I regard defeat? Well, I hate it. I'm not a good loser. I never have been. I don't anticipate developing the mindset that thinks that's okay. And yet I'm excited in the aftermath of this loss. Why? Well, let me explain something. We test, we synthesize. There's a reason why we've been able to maintain these kind of stats year in, year out. You know, if you went by a martingale system, which is betting on what you lost and what would have gained over and over and over again until you ultimately win, we'd have zero losses. But with spot bets, this is our third loss of the year, and yet I found it exciting because what I was able to do is I was able to take two component pieces within the system and test them against each other. And I thought I had found a place where what we call a stable datum, or a piece of information that consistently holds true under almost any circumstance, was defeatable. I had seen Sean Porter and the world-class level struggle with a guy on the way out at the fringe contender level. One draw, one win, real flaws. He had great talent. Devin Alexander looked to be peaking. He looked poised to exploit the type of errors that Sean Porter makes, or used to make when he jumps in and jumps back. And I looked at it and I said, there's two levels of experience. Porter's never been here. I believe Devin Alexander is going to beat Sean Porter, and I recommended it. And I was wrong. Now, if I want to make excuses for myself, I could say, we had no idea that Devin Alexander, for the first time as a main event fighter, was going to fight a game plan of idiocy. He was going to take a bigger, stronger man, even though he doesn't have a lot of power, and Devin Alexander does not have a lot of power, and consistently take his back foot to his front and march into this guy's best shots. That while Porter was bouncing back and forth with what we call a probe step setup, so you can't tell when he's going to jump in, Devin stood flat-footed and refused the pleas of his corner. It was the first thing that he said after the bout. We had a game plan, and I just didn't use it. On the other side, you have Sean Porter, who trained with the best, developed a jab, had an opponent make things very, very easy for him, even though it was a rugged fight. And he was prepared and in great condition for it, and he deserved the win. Okay, that's all BS. What I did was I tested against something that has proven true since I was a child. See, in the late 1970s, we came up with a concept. I personally didn't come up with it. I was too young, but I've used it for a long time. And it's called the Palomino Rule. And the Palomino Rule is centered upon a law of attraction principle. And what that has to do with is you'll get a contender. Sometimes they're not a very good contender. Sometimes they're just a fringe contender. And then they'll receive their shot at a title or a world championship. And something within them clicks. The years of training, the preparation, working their way up, the sacrifices, the punches and beatings that they've taken to become superior athletes, the knowledge that everything that they want is right in front of them. And they become 2 to 3 times the fighter that they were up to that point. We saw it with a fighter named Carlos Palomino in the welterweight division in the late 1970s. We've seen it many, many times since. The first time I was cognizant of it was in the mid-1980s with a bold, brash 140-pounder, very much physically in the mold of Sean Porter, as well as his explosive speed. Porter has the mindset of a fighter named Lonnie Smith. And we had an established champion, at least co-champion, named Billy Costello out of New York. And when he faced Smith, it was clear. Smith did not have the experience, to be there. He had all the talent in the world, as did Porter, but he wasn't tested up to that level, and he just decimated Costello. And from that point over and over again, we said, well, and we've watched people lose over and over again, say, how do they respond under pressure? Well, we've not seen him in this position, so we stay out. We've not seen him in this position, so we stay out. What I did is I looked at it and I said, there's 2 classes that he has to move up from fringe contender, where he just barely worked, I'm referring to Porter, to contender, to titleist. That's a big jump. He makes huge mistakes. Well, what did he do? He corrected them. He jabbed his way in. He threw continually on the inside. He exploited everything that Alexander did wrong. And so, yes, it's the third defeat of the year. And no, it doesn't taste good. But it reaffirms that you stray from the fundamentals with extreme caution. And in this case, it was a mistake. But it was a mistake that I personally will walk away with knowing that it's made me sharper and better. And I'll continue to do what I can to stay in that 90% accuracy rating. So we lose, hey, that's part of life. But remember, people who don't do what we do, they lose oftentimes 40% of the time. Some of them 50% of the time. It's nuts. So as long as we're staying in that 75 to 90% accuracy rating, those of you who are developing, 75% is fine. For me, it has to be 90% or I don't think I'm doing my job. We'll continue working, moving forward, and we'll get better from here. And that, to me, is how defeat should be handled. It should be a lesson. It should be a tool. We've seen in this game boxing many people made by overcoming defeats. Let's do the same now. Christian Shreve, bestboxingbets.com. I'm Christian Shreve, and I'm here to tell you about why I think you should own my new book, Money Boxing, which is on sale now. Money Boxing has something for everyone, whether or not you know anything about boxing. You're about to receive a backstage pass into a world of glamour, corruption, and intrigue. And you're going to learn about the system, which is the only thing the casinos have had to fear in a long time. You can own Money Boxing by clicking on the link below now. I think you'll like it.